Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast. Here to bring you the latest and greatest gaming news of the past week. I am your host, Sean Hayes. This is episode 314. So, got a couple of fun bits of news this week. One of the things that I don't have. Oh, excuse me. There we go. One of the things that I didn't include on, the news docket has been that Wizards of the Coast has been doing a series of like preview videos for the Dungeon Master's Guide. So those are just up on YouTube. I haven't been doing it because like a lot of the stuff isn't super new. It's excuse me. More of just a reorganization of stuff into a format that works much better. Some of the stuff has been updated a little bit, but outside of like Bastions, and including Greyhawk as like an in-book campaign setting, there's not really a whole lot that I've seen so far. Mostly just like an updating of tools and stuff, but and not like tools as a game mechanic, but like tools for DMs. So yeah, but that series is up on YouTube. So I will say I am excited for the book. So, as a forever DM myself. But even then, mostly just for the Bastion stuff, because I love doing base building and headquarter type stuff. All right. But enough about that. Let's get into this week's topics, shall we? So first up, so we have a lot of IGN articles this week. That's just how the news bore out. I have a whole list of news sources, and unfortunately, the ones that end up having the most articles to pick from are also the ones that tend to produce lower quality content. So, unfortunately this week it's a lot of IGN based news, but that's just the way it crumbles. So if you're not a fan of IGN, I'm sorry, I don't know. But basically IGN reports that Firaxis is working with the Shawnee tribe, a Shawnee tribal nation, to ensure a, quote, an authentic, sincere recreation, end quote, in the upcoming Civilization 7. The Shawnee are going to be included as an exploration age civ, which I believe is sort of like a mid-game civ. I forget what the first one is, but it's like you basically have like your early game civ, and then you do exploration age, and then you do modern age, with the idea being that like you actually switch your civ as you move to new ages. The partnership also includes a donation of hundreds of thousands of dollars in language revitalization programs. And part of this was working with the Shawnee Nation to, develop new terminology for use in the game of like particularly like technological concepts that like words currently don't exist for. So this is very cool. I like this. More companies should be doing stuff like this. whenever they can. They did an interview with the tribal chief, who was a big Project Alpha Centauri fan. Absolutely loved the opportunity to be included in this. And yeah, it's something where, as part of this, they acknowledge that like they've done missteps in the past of not taking it very seriously, and so now realizing that many cultures think it's an honor to be included in the Civ series. So I think there's a little bit more of understanding that there's like a responsibility with this series. It's a very highly regarded, venerated series, and so getting tone and mechanics and even just terminology right, as well as ensuring some level of historical accuracy, I think is important. And especially it gives people from those cultures a way to kind of do like some historical fiction of thinking like, well, what if this happened? Which I think is also a nice thing for folks. So yeah, this is super cool. Civ 7, of course, coming out early next year. So the Shawnee, I think, are, if you pre-order it, you get that Civ as part of like a pre-order bundle. Otherwise, it's like an add-on. I guess that's how they're gonna do. I think they started that with 6, of including a bunch of like Civs as DLC. I don't know if they did it for 5, because I started playing 5 late. But yeah, I guess if you pre-order it, it's included in the bundle, but otherwise it will be like an extra add-on DLC. So, and as far as the Civ itself, its traits were militaristic but diplomatic. So it seems like it had a very like defensive military strategy. But one of the big ideas was you benefit from like allying with city-states, but as long as you let them remain independent. So that like that you don't go and annex a city-state, but instead like I forget the term like suzerain. But essentially you become like the primary ally of that city state while still letting them remain independent, and that gives you all sorts of bonuses. I think it's pretty cool. I do like that strategy. I have never been a big conquest victory person myself, so yeah. So this is just, it's very cool. And then especially throwing a bunch of money to language revitalization is huge for indigenous tribes here in the U.S., since a lot of language is being lost. So, yeah, kudos to Firaxis. I think it's important to, not just call out when people make missteps, but also praise when they do something right and good. So, next up, speaking of calling somebody out for missteps, GamesIndustry.biz reports that Sony delisted Horizon Zero Dawn from Steam to then re-upload it as part of a, I don't know, like collector's edition bundle, master's edition bundle, that requires you to log in via PlayStation Network. So that requires you to utilize PSN. So yeah, this I don't I this just it's Sony trying to push PSN memberships. I don't like why. It's a single player game. So why bother doing that? It's not needed. So, yeah, I don't know what Sony's doing, but FYI, I don't know what this means for people who have already purchased it, like myself. Like I purchased it and played through it. And as far as I can tell, there is no other functional difference between the two versions. So yeah, aside from just requiring PSN. So if you have other PlayStation, like first party PlayStation games on Steam, or if you are looking at getting any other first party PlayStation games on Steam, double check that. If it doesn't require PSN yet, maybe pick it up now. Unless you have PSN and you don't mind. But like this just sounds like it's a whole trajectory from like Helldivers. So I don't know. Next up, probably the most fun news is IGN reports Nintendo decided to release an interactive digital alarm clock. I remember seeing it was Jason Schreier had this like breaking news. Nintendo announces new hardware kind of thing. I had already seen this news. And so I was like, it seems like it's trying to pull a fast one because it made it sound like it was like a Switch 2 announcement. And no, it was just bait for the clock. It's called Alarmo. And the main thing is like it has a camera, and I think some accelerometer to respond to your movement. And will feature over 35 scenes from various Nintendo titles. Mario, Zelda. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. I don't know if Donkey Kong's in there or Metroid. Ring Fit Adventure is one of them. But yeah, so the way it works is it senses when you get up out of bed and then shuts off. So if you don't get up out of bed, it will then like snooze, and then it will get progressively more and more like aggressive. See, it will play more and more aggressive scenes to try to get you out of bed. So yeah, this is a bit of a luxury item. It's like $100. Because our budget's a bit limited now, this is not something that I would pick up. Because it's also I have my phone and I just have a regular alarm, a regular digital alarm clock that I've been using for like 25 years now, and it still works fine. But this is a nice little novelty. It's, Nintendo being Nintendo and doing little toy stuff. So, it's cool. If I had the money, sure, I would pick it up. I don't know how or where because I think they were definitely sold out at the Nintendo store in New York. So I don't know if it's just like online, but so yeah, Nintendo doing Nintendo things. Next up, again, IGN reporting a PC adaptation of Weissman's Sea of Legends board game is currently in development for Steam. It's a pirate-themed CRPG that features deck building, romance, and open-world exploration. I had not heard of this board game, but it looks rad. And so I'm all in. Pirate CRPG, sign me up. And then the team is comprised of people who worked on like a bunch of various like pirate titles. So I'm very excited to see. Got a great art style. The art style reminds me of Hearthstone, kind of. It like definitely has that or maybe not necessarily Hearthstone, but like it reminds me of the sort of animatic scenes that Blizzard is kind of doing now with some of their like not quite full on cinematic stuff. So yeah, it's pirates. Pirate RPGs I love. So and then it's a deck builder, so you use cards in combat, like turn-based tactical combat. So yeah. Yeah, I'm all and it's sort of like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like a fantastic take on the Caribbean. So there's like magic, undead, sea monsters, all that stuff. So I mean, in the key art here, there's a volcano. I'm not currently aware of any active volcanoes in the Caribbean. So yeah. Yeah, I'm all in. And apparently the board game itself is pretty highly regarded. So this like hearing this news is now getting me to check out this board game. Which is like an open world narrative RPG board game type deal. So yeah. I don't know because it's in development. I don't know what the target release date is. But you can be sure that I will keep an eye on this development. And last bit of news, Sunderfolk is Dreamhaven's debut game. So Dreamhaven, for those that don't know, is a studio founded by former Blizzard president Mike Morhaime, who basically then like when he left, took a bunch of Blizzard people with him, or a bunch of Blizzard people all left at the same time, and they went on to form this studio. So Sunderfolk is a tactical deck building RPG. So again, like you're choosing from cards to play abilities, but it then has a tactical hex grid for you to move around. The main thing, and this is something that I'm a little concerned about, is they talk about phone and tablet support. But it is releasing for consoles, so I don't know if the phone and tablet support is optional or if it's going to be a weird thing where you have to connect it to an app. Which like I feel like that ends up getting in its own way. So but yeah, the idea is to kind of replicate a tabletop RPG experience. But it's got a great art style, very Blizzard in its art style. A bit more on like the cartoony side. So it feels very reminiscent of like places in World of Warcraft. It's a very cute sort of animal hero type deals. Like there's some sort of little fire salamander like front and center. So yeah, multiplayer. I don't know if it will support single player. I mean, it must. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with this one too. If phone and tablet support are optional, all in 100%. If it's mandatory, I'll be less excited about that, but I might still check it out. So, but yeah. So that is also currently in development. And it looks like it's coming to all platforms. So, I think it said 2025 is the target release date. So it is coming to Xbox. So PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo Switch. So, all right. That is going to wrap up the news for this week. Thank you all for joining me. As always, you can find more stuff from 8-Bit Adventures at 8-bitadventures.com. And if you want to help support that content, you can do so by becoming a patron at patreon.com/8bitadventures. Big shout out and thank you to all of my current patrons. Thank you for your continued support. Our opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. You can find his work over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. And with that, we're done. So we'll see you next week. As always, and I'll be streaming. I might stream some Warcraft tonight, and I'll stream some Stardew Valley tomorrow. For those who are watching this live. But as always, have fun, happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.